I hate crime. She was a golden blonde. She had blue eyes and lines that had to be drawn with a compass. I knew her the minute she walked into my office. Peggy Mann, radio, stage, and screen actress. She was known as the blonde with $1 million smile. But she wasn't smiling now. And there was a gun in her hand. I told her I was in no mood to be shot. Besides, I didn't remember giving her any reason for cooling me off.
I want to give you this gun, Mr. Kent.
Oh, sort of a delayed Christmas present, huh?
I want you to keep it.
Well, thanks, but I've already got 2 of my own. Besides, this is only a pea shooter. I like a gun with more kick.
This one is powerful enough. It just killed a man.
Oh? And who pressed the trigger?
I did.
Oh? Have a good reason?
I was being blackmailed.
Oh. By who?
Ziggy Perone.
Never heard of him. Why were you being blackmailed?
Some pictures and letters. I'd rather not talk about it.
Why did you shoot him?
He came to my flat this morning for another payment. I said I didn't have it.
And?
He produced this gun. He walked towards me. He said he was going to shoot me. Then he tripped. The gun fell from his hand.
Yeah?
I picked it up. He leapt at me. He tried to choke me. I fired. He fell. He lay there. Still.
Why didn't you phone the cops?
I was frightened. I didn't know what to do.
What do you expect me to do?
Well, help me, of course.
Like getting rid of the body?
Could you?
No.
I'll make it worth your while.
Sorry, sweetheart. I'm a private detective, not a funeral director.
But if the police find him in my flat...
They'll ask you what he's doing there. They're funny about dead people, especially when they've been shot.
But it was self-defense.
Okay, then tell it to the boys in blue.
I thought you'd help me.
I will. But it has to be my way.
And what's your way?
First we look at the body. Then we get your story ready. Then we phone the cops.
But then they'll learn about the blackmail.
Can't be helped.
It'll get into the papers.
Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes the cops are as good at secrets as Russian diplomats. Come on. Peggy Mann lived in one of those flats where even the garbage cans are chromium plated. Inside the door, there was a hallway, then the living room.
He's there. Just behind...
Just behind what?
He's gone.
Then he's either a zombie or you didn't kill him.
But I... Yes. Perhaps I didn't kill him. I may have missed him entirely.
You may also be playing a little game.
You don't believe me?
I know that corpses don't just get up and start walking. Another thing, I don't see any blood on the floor, any signs of a struggle.
Are you suggesting that I made up the story?
Well, there's got to be some answer. What's it all about, Peggy?
Everything I told you was true. If you don't believe me, you can leave.
That's exactly what I did. As a private eye, I've met crackpots both here and in the States, and the female is the worst half of the breed. Especially the pretty ones. I went back to the office. Huh. Must have forgotten to lock the door when I left. I put the key back in my pocket, went in. Oh. When I returned from dreamland, I picked myself up, staggered to my desk, sat down till the little colored balls disappeared. There was some medicine in one of the drawers. Gave myself a double scotch, put the bottle back. I was about to close the drawer when I noticed something. Or rather, I didn't notice something. The gun I'd taken from Peggy, it was gone. That was why I'd been slugged. I went through the office. A few other things had been taken. Cigarette box. Camera. I got the phone book. Found Peggy Mann's number. Dialed it. No answer. I drove out to her place. Not in. I used my skeleton keys. Searched her apartment. Nothing. I went home. Every hour that night until 1 in the morning, I rang her apartment. Always no answer. Finally, I gave it up and went to sleep. But the next morning, bright and early, I was pressing a doorbell. I kept right on pressing.
Mr. Kent.
Good morning.
What are you doing at this hour?
I wanted to see what you looked like before the paint went on. Mm-hmm. Not bad. Little puffed around the eyes, but...
What do you want?
Words.
Can't they wait till later? I'm tired.
Must have been out late last night.
I went to a movie.
I rang at 1.
I was asleep.
I rang at 12, too. And 11. And 10.
Why?
Same reason. Words. I want to know why that story yesterday.
Oh, what's the matter? Can't you take a joke?
A joke, huh?
Yes. I did it on a bet.
Oh? With who?
My fiancé. He thought it was terribly funny.
Well, maybe he'll think this is funny. I charge 10 quid a day plus expenses, so counting the gasoline I burned coming here, you owe me 10 guineas.
Your car must eat up a lot of gasoline.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to get a mechanic to have a look at it. But right now, sweetheart, 10 guineas.
It was worth it. I'll get it for you.
She did, too. A dark red note and a light one. I put the dough in my pocket.
You see, I can take it, too.
Yeah, you're a great sport. You can go back to bed now.
Won't you come in?
Come again?
For a drink, I mean.
Oh. No thanks. I've got things to do, but maybe I'll see you again, huh?
I hope so. Goodbye.
So long. I didn't bother telling her about the disappearing gun or the lump on my cranium, but I'd learned a lot from her. Now I had to learn some more. The guy she'd mentioned, the character who was supposed to have been blackmailing her, who she first claimed she'd shot, Ziggy Perrone. There's a crime reporter who works for a Sydney paper. His name's Noel Andrews, and he's got such a good memory that I never borrow any money from him. It was Friday, payday, so I knew he'd show up at his office.
Hello, Larry.
Hi, Noel.
What brings you here?
Fella named Ziggy Perrone, do you know him?
I know of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's the sort of fellow you don't want to know too well.
Seen him lately?
Not for a couple of months. The last time I was in Melbourne.
Melbourne?
Yeah, he operates from there.
Blackmail?
Anything as long as it's not too violent.
Does he know how to handle a gun?
A gun? Why, it'd scare the life out of him. He's the lowest of the low.
Thanks, Noel.
Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah?
I smell a story.
I told him I'd let him have it if and when it came. Next move, a shadow job across the street from the building where Peggy had an apartment. My car was parked just around the corner. In 2 days, she took me to a few radio studios, a movie company that made commercial shorts, on a shopping tour, to cafes. The people she met didn't mean anything. But at 8 p.m. on the 3rd day, a car pulled up outside her apartment. The guy driving was Nick Malone, one of the King's Cross smart guys. He tooted his horn like a little gentleman, and Peggy came out a few minutes later. I followed. They took me to the Club Fantan. I spotted them at a corner table with their heads together. When Nick got up to make a phone call or something, I walked over. Hello, Peggy.
What are you doing here?
Having fun. But you don't look too happy.
No. But I was never happier. Third finger left hand. Look.
An engagement ring. Did Nick Malone give it to you?
Yes.
He's a cheap racketeer.
I don't see why that should be any of your business.
I'm making it my business.
And tell Nick about it. Here he is.
He was coming towards us. When he spotted me, he almost stopped, then he came on. He was tall, dark. He had hard eyes. They were glaring straight at me.
Hello, Mr. I Hate Crime.
Hi, Nick.
You know Kent, Peggy?
We met through a practical joke, darling.
But the joke backfired. Right at you, Nick.
I don't know what you mean.
You'll find out. I'd like to see you alone, Nick.
Sure. Anytime.
Tomorrow morning in my office, 10 o'clock.
That's a date. I could use some laughs.
I said so long to Peggy, had a bottle of beer and a steak at my table, went home. In the morning, I had a date. With trouble. I had an idea something might happen that night, so I slept with my gun under my pillow. But there were no tricks. At 10 the next morning, Nick Malone kept his appointment.
You said you had something to talk about.
Yeah, I'm interested in a friend of yours.
And who might that be?
Ziggy Perone.
Ziggy?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen him for a long time. He operated in Melbourne.
What did you do with him?
What did I do with Ziggy?
Where did you plant him?
Whatever you try and Kent, you're on the wrong track.
Okay, I'll switch. There was a gun in this desk yesterday. A gun Peggy fired at Ziggy point blank.
Are you crazy?
Peggy came here with that story. Ziggy was supposed to be in her living room dead. But when we got there, the body was gone.
That sounds exactly like Peggy.
Meaning?
Practical jokes. She's full of them.
You're engaged to Peggy, right?
You know that.
Okay, this morning I saw Peggy. Last night she was scared, but this morning she tried to pass the whole thing off as a gag.
Which is probably what it was.
No. She said she did it on a bet. Said the bet was with a boyfriend, yet you played dumb.
She could have meant someone else.
She didn't mean anything. She said the first thing that came to her. You should have planned this more carefully, Nick.
Like I said before, Kent, you're on the wrong track.
I know just how it was done, Nick. The gun taken from this drawer. The fact that I was slugged. The engagement ring on Peggy's finger.
What does all that add up to?
You got rid of Ziggy before I arrived with Peggy. Then after you got in touch with her, you came here, stole the gun, and had me slugged.
Can you prove that?
Not yet. but I will.
You'll have a hard time, Kent. And you can take that in more ways than one.
That sounds vaguely like a threat.
Just keep your nose clean. Leave things like they are, or you'll be sorry.
He went. For the next few minutes or so, I sat back letting the facts sink in over and over again. But there were a few things that just wouldn't fit. So, I paid another visit to Peggy Mann.
Look, don't you think this thing's going just a bit too far?
Hold on, sweetheart. I'm on your side.
But it doesn't matter whose side you're on. You were the victim of a practical joke. Can't you let it go at that? Must you insist on playing detective?
Cut the act, Peggy. I know you fired that gun. I know Ziggy Perone was here. He was seen walking into this apartment building.
You're lying.
I was, but she wasn't sure. Now she was scared. And she knew I saw it.
Will you please leave, Mr. Kent?
No. You're going to play ball with me. You don't think I fell for that joke story, do you?
It was the truth.
Then what about the gun?
Well, a burglar must have taken it from your...
A burglar took it, huh? But you're not supposed to know somebody broke into my office. I didn't tell you.
I...
Wise up, Peggy. You're being taken for a ride.
What do you mean?
If you answer a couple of questions truthfully, I promise I won't go to the cops without your okay.
But why should I agree to anything like that?
Because you're miserable. Because you don't want to marry Nick Malone. It's written all over your pretty face.
I do want to marry him.
He's forcing you to.
He isn't.
He's got you in the middle. I'm giving you a chance to get out. All you have to do is trust me.
You're right. I thought I could go through it. But I can't.
That's better. Will you talk now?
Oh, what's the use? What's the use of anything?
I'm telling you that you're okay, Peggy. I'm telling you that you didn't kill Ziggy.
What?
He's not dead.
But the gun was pointed at his chest. Only 6 inches away.
It was probably loaded with blanks.
Blanks? But why?
The engagement ring answers that. Nick Malone is the kind of a guy who'd do anything to get what he wants. And the way I look at it, he really wants you.
He asked me to marry him months ago. I refused.
So there you are.
Yesterday, he said we'd keep the secret together. After what he'd done, I couldn't refuse.
How did he say he got in here to get rid of Ziggy?
He said he came to call on me, but I'd left the door partly open. He rang the doorbell. When I didn't answer, he thought something was wrong, so he walked in. He claimed that when he saw Ziggy, he guessed what had happened, and he got rid of the body.
I wonder how much he gave Ziggy to put on that act with a gun. How much blackmail were you paying Ziggy?
It amounted to a few hundred this year.
Cut rate. What about the letters and pictures he was holding?
Nick said he went to Ziggy's hotel room later. He brought the letters and pictures to me. We burned them in his flat.
Yeah, he had everything figured, didn't he? Then I walked into it.
He probably didn't think I'd leave the flat so soon.
No. Well, now all we have to do is find where Ziggy is holding out. Meantime, stall Nick. Don't let on that we know his game.
I won't. But where are you going?
Guys like Ziggy go to certain places. I have contacts. I'll set them on his tail.
Be careful.
Sure.
And let this remind you of how much I'm depending on you.
Hey. I think we've got time for at least one more of those.
After all this is over, we can really get serious.
If you weren't warmed up then, sweetheart, I'm in for an interesting time.
You'd better leave now, while I can still let you go.
Yeah.
Phone me.
Uh-huh.
Freeze!
Nick!
I saw his car parked around the corner.
Smart boy.
Get back in.
You're calling the signals.
paper just came out, Peggy. Have a look at it.
Peggy had a reason for gasping. I could just see the headline. It went, "Melbourne racketeer murdered."
They found Ziggy's body in the harbour only a few hours ago.
But you said they'd never find it.
I wired iron weights to him. They must have worked loose.
You killed him, Nick.
Quiet. Flatfoot.
That's why you grabbed the gun from my office. It was loaded with blanks.
Make sure all the windows are closed, Peggy. And the curtains drawn across.
All right, Nick. That will deaden the sound of the shot, won't it?
Yeah.
There was a burning chill up my spine. My stomach felt as though everything had fallen out. She was playing along with him. In his hand was the small caliber revolver he'd taken from my office. We waited. Then Peggy came back.
Everything okay?
Yes, darling.
He raised the gun. But I was looking past him at Peggy. She was raising a gun too and aiming carefully. The slug caught him in the back, spun him around. But she was a careful dame. She made sure. He went down, a very surprised look on his face. She was swaying. I caught her, helped her to the couch.
I had to kill him.
Yeah, sure, but you had me scared for a minute. I thought I was the next corpse.
The gun was in my bedroom. All I could think of was getting it. Of shooting him before he could hurt you.
Oh, you poor kid.
Oh, I'm all mixed up, Larry.
We'll unmix it together.
Kiss me.
Sure. Now, just take it easy.
What?
I'll call the cops.
What will you tell them?
How Nick must have offered Ziggy a lot of dough for pulling that act with a gun. Then when you left, how Ziggy let Nick in. Then how Nick took him away, paid him off with a bullet.
I would have gone through life thinking I'd killed him.
Yeah.
That's why I felt I had to marry him, to protect myself.
That's how he had it figured. He probably had a grudge against Ziggy, made it 2 galahs with 1 rock.
Yes. Nick! Larry! Nick!
Nick sprawled on the floor, 3 bullets, and he was still alive. He was holding the small revolver with both hands. Peggy's gun was on the table.
Double-cross. Cheap little tramp!
She went for the gun. I clawed for mine. We were both too late. I didn't have to use mine. Nick's fingers went stiff. The gun fell. Peggy had caught it behind the right ear. She was as dead as you want to get. But Nick had a few words left in him.
She killed Ziggy. Phoned me to get rid of the body.
Why did she come to me?
Must have been playing both ends against the middle.
I think I get it. If the body was found, as it was, and she was suspected, my evidence would make it look like self-defense.
Yeah. Smart girl.
But she outsmarted herself, didn't she, huh? Nick didn't answer. I lighted a cigarette, looked at Peggy. Kicked myself in the pants mentally. Huh. A great detective I turned out to be. But it wasn't the first time I'd been fooled by a dame. And I guess it won't be the last one either. Hello? Police headquarters? Buzz homicide, will you? Never mind, just tell them to pick up 2 bodies. Bodies. At Apartment 5, Wellington Arms, Double Bay. Apartment 5, Wellington Arms, Double Bay. Good night.